most holy and eternal one. As the morning light breaks through darkness, I come before you with reverence and wonder. You who set the stars in their courses and breathe life into every living thing, I stand in awe of your majesty and intimate care. In this sacred moment between what has been and what will be, I pause to acknowledge your presence that transcends all understanding, yet meets me exactly where I am. Creator of the universe who knows my name, I marvel at this paradox. That you who are beyond all comprehension would desire connection with me. That the God who formed galaxies would attend to my whispered prayers and collect my tears. This mystery of your nature, both transcendent and immanent, leaves me humbled and grateful. In this complex world where voices compete for attention and paths diverge in countless directions, I seek the clarity of your wisdom and the assurance of your companionship. Be my North Star when horizons blur and certainties fade. Amidst the complexities and the myriad paths before me, the recurring sequence of 12-12 catches my eye and stills my heart. I understand this number often signifies a time of growth, alignment, and the importance of maintaining positive thoughts as new opportunities blossom. Grant me the wisdom to recognize these emerging pathways and the courage to nurture their development with faith and optimism. May this gentle reminder from the angelic realm encourage me to stay focused on my intentions, knowing that my positive energy contributes to the unfolding of blessings in my life and the realization of my soul's purpose. Great Shepherd, I confess that I have often wandered from your protection, mistaking self-reliance for strength and independence for wisdom. I have pursued paths that promised fulfillment but led to emptiness, chased affirmation from sources that could never truly know or love me. Forgive my stubborn heart that resists your gentle guidance and my fearful spirit that doubts your abundant provision. Divine Healer, you see the wounds I carry, some inflicted by others, some self-imposed, some from circumstances beyond my control. You know where pain has calcified into bitterness, where disappointment has hardened into cynicism, where rejection has convinced me I am unworthy of love. With tender mercy, touch these broken places, not to erase the scars that tell my story, but to redeem them as testimonies of your restoration. Into the darkest chambers of my heart, where shame and regret reside, shine your light of acceptance and forgiveness. Where I have built walls to protect myself, teach me to build bridges instead. Where I cling to control, show me the freedom that comes with surrender to your perfect love. Lord of all seasons, I acknowledge that life unfolds in cycles of growth and rest, abundance and scarcity, celebration and mourning. In a culture that prizes perpetual productivity and constant happiness, grant me wisdom to honor each season for its unique purpose. Help me recognize that barren winters prepare soil for spring's renewal, that pruning, though painful, leads to greater fruitfulness. When I find myself in seasons of plenty, with overflowing health, relationships, or resources, guard me against the twin temptations of entitlement and self-sufficiency. Let abundance inspire generosity rather than complacency. When blessings multiply also my awareness that every good gift comes from your hand. In seasons of scarcity and struggle, when prayers seem to echo unanswered and your presence feels distant, anchor my faith beyond fleeting emotions. When my circumstances whisper that you have forgotten me, let your promises speak louder. Remind me that your character remains unchanged even when my conditions do not. Divine Companion, I need your presence in ordinary moments as much as in crises, in mundane routines where meaning can be elusive, commutes and meetings, meal preparations and maintenance tasks. Help me recognize sacred opportunities. Show me how to transform transactions into connections, obligations into offerings, and routines into rituals of mindfulness. When I reduce life to items checked off lists and problems efficiently solved, awaken me to the wonder hiding in plain sight, the miracle of another sunrise, the gift of a stranger's smile, the privilege of loving and being loved. In a world of distraction and acceleration, teach me the countercultural practice of presence, of being fully here, fully alive to the holiness of each passing moment. In seasons when your presence seems palpable and prayers flow easily, I rejoice in communion with you. In seasons when doubt clouds my vision and my spirit feels parched, remind me that you are as present in questioning as in certainty, as faithful in silence as in revelation. Gracious guide, as I navigate relationships with others, infuse my interactions with your divine perspective. When I encounter difficulty in human connections, misunderstandings that fester, differences that divide, expectations that wound, expand my capacity for empathy and patience. Help me remember that each person I meet bears your image, carries their own burdens, and navigates their own journey with you. In family relationships tangled with history and unspoken expectations, grant clarity and courage. Clarity to distinguish between patterns that bring life and those that perpetuate pain. Courage to establish healthy boundaries while maintaining compassion. Where generational wounds or dysfunctions persist, make me an agent of healing rather than another link in a chain of hurt. With friends and community, help me cultivate connections rooted in authenticity rather than appearance, in mutual growth rather than mutual benefit. Teach me to be present without fixing, to listen without judging, to support without enabling. Show me how to create spaces where others feel truly seen, known, and valued as you see, know, and value them. Lord of reconciliation, in relationships fractured by betrayal, misunderstanding, or drifting apart, guide me toward the difficult grace of forgiveness, not to minimize harm done, but to free myself from the prison of resentment. Where restoration of relationship is possible, create paths toward healing. Where distance remains necessary for well-being, grant acceptance and peace. Divine wisdom, illuminate my understanding of purpose in a world that often measures worth by productivity, success, and acquisition. Liberate me from the exhausting pursuit of proving my value through achievement or accumulation. Instead, root my identity in the unshakable truth that I am your beloved creation, bearing your image and invited into your redemptive work. Help me discern my unique calling, the intersection of my gifts, passions, opportunities, and the world's needs. In seasons of clarity when purpose feels evident, strengthen my commitment to faithful stewardship. In seasons of uncertainty when direction seems obscured, give me patience to wait for your timing and courage to step forward even without seeing the full path ahead. Creator of community, expand my vision beyond individualistic notions of purpose to recognize my place in your larger story. Show me how my small thread, my talents, resources, and influence contributes to the beautiful tapestry you are weaving across generations and cultures. Guard me against both grandiosity that overestimates my importance and false humility that undervalues my contribution. When doors close unexpectedly or dreams die painful deaths, comfort me with the assurance that nothing offered to you is wasted. Redeem detours and disappointments as opportunities for deeper surrender and unexpected discovery. In successes and failures alike, keep me grounded in the knowledge that my ultimate purpose transcends tangible results. It is to know you and make you known through a life that reflects your character. Eternal One who exists beyond time, yet enters into our temporal reality, help me steward the precious gift of time with wisdom and intentionality. In a culture of perpetual hurry and chronic overcommitment, teach me to establish rhythms that honor both productivity and rest, engagement and solitude, giving and receiving. Grant me discernment to distinguish between urgency and importance, to recognize when activity becomes an escape from deeper work you're inviting me into. Show me how to create margins that allow for unexpected interruptions, divine appointments you've scheduled in invisible ink on my calendar. When I feel overwhelmed by demands and deadlines, remind me that my worth is not measured by how much I accomplish, but by whose I am. Give me courage to establish boundaries that protect priorities aligned with your values rather than surrendering to the tyranny of the urgent or others' expectations. Shepherd of my soul, guide me into healthy patterns of Sabbath rest, not merely as abstention from work, but as celebration of your sufficiency and delight in your presence. In quiet moments of contemplation, restore perspective and renew vision. In play and recreation, reawaken childlike wonder and joy that refreshes my spirit. God of all comfort, when suffering intrudes through illness, loss, betrayal, or hardship, be my refuge and strength. When pain threatens to define my story or despair colors my perception, remind me that you are acquainted with grief, familiar with sorrow. You do not stand distant from suffering, but entered fully into it through Christ. When simple answers fail and platitudes ring hollow, grant me honesty to bring my raw questions and emotions before you. In lament and wrestling, may I discover, as Job did, that encounter with you transforms more than answers ever could. In seasons of suffering, protect me from isolation that compounds pain. Surround me with companions who know when to speak truth, when to offer practical help, and when to simply sit in silence, bearing witness to grief too deep for words. Make me likewise sensitive to others. Suffering, quick to extend the comfort I have received. Divine Redeemer, I trust your promise that suffering, while real and significant, is never the final word. You who bring beauty from ashes and joy from mourning can transform even the darkest experiences into channels of compassion, wisdom, and hope. Help me remain open to this mysterious alchemy of grace, even when transformation seems impossible. Lord of all nations and peoples, expand my vision beyond personal concerns to embrace your heart for justice, reconciliation, and flourishing in our broken world. Disrupt my comfort with systems that privilege some while marginalizing others. Challenge my indifference to suffering that doesn't directly affect me. Awaken my imagination to possibilities for participating in your restorative work. In a world fragmented by polarization and tribalism, make me an instrument of your peace. Quick to listen, slow to speak, resistant to dehumanizing those with whom I disagree. Help me hold convictions with both courage and humility, remembering that I see only partially and understand imperfectly. When overwhelmed by the magnitude of global needs, poverty, violence, exploitation, environmental degradation, guard me against both paralysis and performative gestures. Guide me instead to faithful engagement in places where my specific gifts, resources, and influence can contribute meaningfully to human flourishing and the healing of creation. Divine love that transcends all understanding, be my teacher in the school of sacrificial love. Transform my natural tendencies towards self-protection and self-interest into genuine concern for others' well-being. Where love has become transactional or conditional, restore its radical, generous nature. Where fear has made love cautious and calculated, infuse it with holy courage. In relationships where loving feels natural and reciprocal, I give thanks. In relationships that test the limits of my capacity to love, where wounds are deep, differences seem irreconcilable, or appreciation is absent, supply supernatural resources of patience, kindness, and perseverance. When loving others depletes my reserves, remind me to return to your inexhaustible fountain. You who are love itself can fill what is empty, restore what is depleted, and transform duty into desire. In receiving your perfect love that casts out fear, may I become a clearer channel of that love to a world desperate for authentic connection. Alpha and Omega, as I contemplate life's brevity and eternity's vastness, align my priorities with lasting values. Free me from accumulating treasures that rust and fade while neglecting investments in what endures beyond this life. Faith, hope, love, and lives touched by your grace through me. When death intrudes, through personal loss, collective tragedy, or contemplation of my own mortality, comfort me with the assurance that death is not the end of the story you are writing. Your resurrection power transforms even this final enemy into a doorway to fuller life in your presence. Until that day when faith becomes sight and broken things are made whole, help me live fully present to each moment, attentive to your voice, responsive to your leading, and grateful for the privilege of participating in your unfolding story of redemption. With hands lifted in surrender and a heart full of hope, I offer this prayer in trust that you who began a good work will be faithful to complete it, in me, through me, and despite me, for the healing of the world and the glory of your name. In gratitude, reverence, and love. Amen.